Yesterday on June 6, 2021, as I'm sure you've all heard by now, the Capitol building in Washington, D.C. was overrun by the people. There was one woman shot, and there was a lot of video angles from inside and outside the building. This was a highly publicized event. So I won't give you too much of the details that you probably already know. What I do want to dive deeply into is, what does this say about the state of humanity? What does this say about the health of our governing apparatus, and what can be done about it? Remember to smash that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, comment below, please share this video. I hope it brings a little bit of balance to a very volatile situation, and get ready for a deep dive right here on Waking Infinity News. During the War of 1812, British troops burnt the Capitol building of the United States to the ground. It actually happened in August of 1814, and this was on the heels of American troops actually burning the Canadian Capitol building called York to the ground in 1813. Yes, this is still an unprecedented event. Yesterday, June 6, 2021, the Capitol building in Washington, D.C. was overrun by the people. Now, I'm not going to feed you a line on who it was. You're probably already seeing everybody's saying Trump supporters overran the Capitol. That's easy, and that's the narrative. I'm not going to, even though I've seen footage of many white vehicles showing up and escorting civilians inside the White House before the real crap hit the fan, proverbially, I'm not going to give you guys a line. I think it's irresponsible without enough information, as information is still coming in, and there's many different angles, many different things you can look at. There's way too many individual phone camera video angles to look at all of them to really get to the bottom of the story within one day. And that's really not what I want to even bring you. You know, that's not the point of why I even put this news show together. This news show was really to uplift people. It was kind of in the spirit of Barbara Marx Hubbard saying, we need breakthrough media, not breakdown media. But this is news. It definitely did happen. I'm also not going to regurgitate the narrative that the media is putting out there, because I think that's even more irresponsible. I get a lot of people who, they'll give me flack if I veer from the narrative. And when I get flack, I don't usually get upset anymore. I don't take it personally. I see where people are at psychologically, because this is a psychological, and I would definitely say this is a spiritual battle, not in a religious sense. And my idea of spirituality more has to do with that thing we choose to connect all of our actions, all of our behaviors, everything that we do is in service to what? Most of us aren't in contact with that, so we are not in contact with spirit. It doesn't have to be something super woo-woo or new age or even metaphysical in that sense. It could be the most practical, pragmatic thing. Now, the reason why I say that it is irresponsible to regurgitate the mainstream media's narrative is because the whole apparatus of the mainstream media, Frank Zappa said, the media it's basically the entertainment arm of the military-industrial complex. And I would go even further to say there's the old school paradigm of the military-industrial complex, and then there's Silicon Valley and the technocrats. And it's pretty much a conglomerate of who pays and who's in power. The media will feed the narrative that feeds the monster. I'm also not going to say that the monster is completely disconnected from us, because I believe spiritually we've also built the monster. We, humans, en masse. And we feel safe when we have a military-industrial complex. We feel safe when there are measures that are actually, in a sense, kind of stripping away our liberties and holding us really tightly. It's in the same way that a baby will be wrapped in a swaddle. It makes them feel safe and secure and held, right? But we're not babies. This is the reality that we haven't woken up to yet. Really, the thing that I would say about the mainstream media is it is a representation of who we are and how we like to be spoken to. Now, I'm not saying we like to be spoken to in that way because it is healthy for us. I'm saying it's because what we're used to. We don't know how to break free from the shackles of our old paradigms because we've never been given enough of an example. This is exactly why I sit here in this seat every week, really taking a lot of time building these show ideas, bringing them to you, giving over my emotions, my mind to you guys, hearing all your comments, adjusting course, in a sense, learning in the public eye. I put my ideas out there. It's usually very fast-paced, and then I get people who get to sit there, ponder what I said, come up with an idea or an argument against it, and give it to me, a lot of the times not even in a very emotionally mature way. So, I guess where I'm going with this is the best thing that I could do is, instead of giving you guys a play-by-play, you can watch the news as is, and you'll see everything you need to see. You can then go to other people's Telegram feeds or whatever. You can go to BitChute, and you're going to see a lot of different angles. If you believe that you are truly informed, yet you only watch mainstream media, you're sorely mistaken. If you believe that you are a high information individual, yet all you watch are conspiracy videos, you're highly misinformed. If you believe you are truly an intelligent individual, but all you do is sit in your intellect, even if you go to BitChute, Parler, Patreon, people's individual Telegram feeds, you look through every social media feed and then you go to mainstream, but you're staying purely in the intellect, you're sorely mistaken. The reason why I say this is because what I believe we truly need as a people is healing. Now, I've gotten into this in the past. The reason why I did Psychedelica, a whole series on psychedelics and shamanism, is not because I believe people need to take psychedelics. It's because psychedelics reliably bring about a releasing of the filters and the ways that we compartmentalize information. And it allows for all that to circulate and things from our past to come up, and we get to process it and breathe through it. Yes, it can traumatize us if we don't do this in a safe way. The reason why I'm saying this on the heels of the Capitol building being stormed is really because people are going to be demanding, I should say, something to be done, some kind of retribution for what has happened. And in that, people are going to feel safe when whoever they blame as the other side gets theirs. And it's the blame game. But this is not healing. Blaming others, finding people to blame, is the very reason why we are in this mess in the first place. What do I believe about what our government should be? I don't believe we should have one individual representing as the PR face. As Joe Rogan says, you basically have, a popularity contest every 4 years to see who stands in office. All that is a representation of who we are on the inside. Truly, it is not they who will change. So if we keep demanding for the ego to become spiritually awakened, we're going to be waiting forever. And this is why I talk about medicine. And I'm not talking about just psychedelics. I'm also not just talking about things that bring you into altered states like breath work. Meditation is probably the best altered state you could ever bring yourself into. It's the safest one. But what I'm really talking about is the medicine is forgiveness. We need to learn how to forgive ourselves for what deep down inside we know is happening. We're beating our heads against the wall. It's this age-old quote, which is really only as old as we know, as Albert Einstein, who said, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting a different result. I believe that is our society. It is our environment. We are continually trying to get a governmental apparatus that repeatedly doesn't seem to listen. They don't seem to represent us, and they don't seem to even care to be associated with the people. It's rhetoric and control. And it never ends up. There's not one case you can point to in history where something has happened and it's led to an increase in freedoms and a smaller government. That never happens. Yet we never seem to wake up to the trajectory of it. And it's the same thing that happens with trauma. The more trauma we have, the more we tighten our body down. We tighten our anatomy. We tighten our mind. We tighten our emotions. We lock them away and we forget. And the whole thing about every 4 years or 8 years that a president is in office, the left says, yay, and then the right says, yay. And one has to say, oh man, while the other says, yay. One has to lose in order for the other to win. This is a system of forgetting. It's very, very easy for us to forget. Actually, if you listen to the Tim Pool podcast, he even shared this thing that he discovered and probably read through a series of articles, which may or may not actually be true, but it was pulled saying that most people, if the news is fresh, they believe it alternative style, meaning they don't believe what the mainstream media says, they'll believe only what alternative media says. But if it's older news, even 5, 10, 16 years ago, then we'll believe mainly what the mainstream media says because it's older. It seems to have some clout and some staying power. The reason why I'm saying this is we are the ones that need to wake up. There's no blame that needs to be placed. In fact, there needs to be forgiveness. We need to hold forgiveness ceremony for ourselves. And this sounds very woo-woo. What does that actually mean? What it means is we have dealt with generations upon generations and generations of violence. And yes, we are getting to a point now where a lot of people are like, we're freer than we ever have been. Actually, there's more poverty today and there's probably more slavery today than there ever has been on this planet. And that's not just because our population is bigger. This is actually statistically and percentage-wise true if you believe what you read online. So the healing that needs to happen is we need to come face to face with who hasn't woken up yet. And that's us. It's always us. We are the ones who haven't woken up. We are the ones who consistently forget that the ones who are hurting the most are the ones that we are blaming the most. What do you expect the government to do when they are trying to, if they really are ever trying to, represent people who cannot come together? Who, because if you look at the population, the masses, we're not civil. We're not unified. Many people, we have unified things that we want. We want to be left alone for the most part. We want our freedoms. We want a simple life. We want to be able to live simply, have our things. And then there's a small sliver of the population that, nah, that's not good enough. I want more and more and more and more. And guess what? We, the most powerful demographic, because of what we consistently want, we don't wake up to the fact that there is that sliver of the population. We don't wake up to it. And therefore, we consistently forget. What we need to do is remember that government is always built on the heels, or has always historically been built on the heels of violence. I'm not going to give you my projections on what's going to happen from this point forward. I can bet you that there's going to be some bills, potentially some draconian measures to say we never want to have this kind of violence again. And guess who those bills and those laws will protect? Not the people. It's never been that way. Who's it going to protect? Come on, you know the answer. It's that tiny sliver of the population. But fighting is the very essence of the energy that is being harvested from us. This is my whole point about mainstream media. For the most part, they thrive. Like you hear, if it bleeds, it leads, right? If it scares you, if it elicits disgust, if it elicits fear, paranoia, it gets eaten up in the ratings. It really does. So what must we do? The same thing that I've been trying to say for quite some time now. We need to move our body in healthy ways. We need to understand our fascial system. We need to drink enough water to move energy through our body. We need to walk in nature. We need to remind ourselves what being a human being actually feels like. We need to touch the earth. We need to touch one another. And what would happen, truly, if there was a unified effort and everyone decided, you know what, I'm just going to open my businesses back up. I'm just going to start serving people food. I'm going to help my neighbor rebuild his business and see if he will help build my business, and we're going to exchange goods. We're going to start our own currency. It doesn't have to be an actual fiat currency. It could be gift economy. It could be a barter system, even though bartering is still value for value, your chickens for my daughter, all the way up to this gold bullion for that amount of cash. What I'm saying is, there's so many people that are worried about the isms. Is this a socialist takeover? Is this a technocratic takeover? Is this a communist takeover? Is this a capitalist takeover? Really? If we were to awaken, love belongs everywhere. Love, real unconditional love, that's viral and gone wild throughout the population. Even if we had a communist system, it wouldn't be corrupt with love. Even if we had a socialist system, a capitalist system, a free market, closed market, monopoly system, if it was riddled with love and people, and what I'm telling you is love remembers how much power you have, and love does not kowtow to fear. Fear makes you foggy. Love gives clarity. What we need more of is clarity right now. I mean it. I said on my Monday program, there may be an alien, a staged alien invasion that crops up. While I still believe that, and everything I shared I believe, I got a lot of people that were truly upset with me. They didn't like that I had to say that. And so here's what I'll leave you with. Even though I said that I believe there will be some fake events in 2021, it doesn't mean I don't believe that extraterrestrials exist. And in fact, I absolutely do. I was out in Hawaii earlier, back in the end of 2019. It was October of 2019, and I visited the individual who was told by, I believe it was Uncle Roberts. He had since passed, but he was one of the elders in Hawaii, one of the kupuna. And he told this guy, Gary, build the Star Visitor Sanctuary because we need our star visitors to come down and intervene on our behalf. I absolutely believe that there's extraterrestrials, pan-dimensional intelligences. I could go on and on and on. I believe there's creatures right here on Earth right now that are even from Earth that we've never heard of, that we would be super surprised about if we found out. So what I am saying is, there could be a Hail Mary pass that we're not even aware is even possible, that could step in the final moments. We can't give in to fear and what actions fear causes us to bring forth. We must live like the solution is already among us. We must live and act out of love. And you know what? President Joe Biden, because Donald Trump said, okay, after this event, there will be an orderly transition of power over to Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. And you know what? I'm not going to say, congratulations, Joe Biden. I'm not going to say congratulations, Kamala Harris. And that's not out of disrespect. I believe that the whole system needs to be shifted. I'm not happy or sad that they're in office. I believe it's a representation of what's happening within us. What I want to see is major transformation. I want to be surprised at how refreshing and genuine and authentic our leadership could be. I haven't seen any shred of evidence from any candidate ever, except for Ron Paul, maybe Tulsi Gabbard, a few others, and they didn't stand a chance of getting into office. And that's not because we can keep pointing the finger outside and showing where the corruption lies out here. Next show I bring you, I will talk about the power of manifestation in practical terms with the latest science coming from our body. I didn't want to convolute this very conversation. I wanted it to be very calm, resolute. I wanted to bring a little bit of balance back to a very volatile situation and to show you guys that the real healing needs to take place before any correction on the outside will ever take place. So, with that being said, I really appreciate everyone who comments, even the ones who disagree, even the ones who seem like emotional toddlers that comment towards me and say things that, and use choice words that you really don't have to say. I'm a big boy. You can talk to me like a big boy. If I've gotten something wrong, I'll try and own it. So please, rise to that occasion and have a real conversation, an adult conversation, as if love were actually present in your words. And I'll try to do the same as much as I can. I am fallible, but the work must be done. We have to have this conversation. This news program is not a one-sided conversation. I love hearing from you. I consider it a round table. I also consider myself to be a neophyte, and for you all to be the teachers. I learn so much from you. So, keep sending in your messages. Keep telling me how I can improve. I love you all. I mean it. And I'll catch you guys next time on Waking Infinity News.